If you have an interest in horses and love learning more about horses, the horse industry, teaching, or even managing your own horse business, then you're in the right place. We would love you to join us on our mission, which is to improve the lives of horses around the world through the education of riders, handlers, and trainers. So get comfortable, listen in, and enjoy.
Our episode of Horse Chats today has been brought to you by Online Horse College. If you'd like to receive a government-accredited qualification to get going within the horse industry, have a look at onlinehorsecollege.com. But don't have a look yet because at the moment we've got Karen Irwin. So Karen's an eventing coach, competitor, trainer. She's competed to 4-star. She gets a huge buzz out of teaching riders who like to just achieve their goals, no matter what goals they want to achieve. And she's got herself and 3 children competing, so it's a bit of a family affair, the whole competition world at the moment. Karen, how are you today?
I'm good, thank you.
Good. Now, Karen, I know that you've got a quote ready to go, and we like to find out a little bit more about you just by the quote that you're going to use, which might be an inspirational quote or something that you use when you're teaching all the time. What have you got for us today?
A quote that I tend to live by is don't keep doing the same thing and expect a different result. Okay. And I use that through my working life and my equestrian life and also my personal life. So it's one that, has stuck with me. And, I like that quote because it's something that you're working on with your horse, schooling. If it's not working and you don't seem to be getting somewhere, you need to change it, whether it's just tweaking it, asking your coach for some advice. Yeah, or even just going back to basics. And if all else fails, that's my go-to. You go back to basics.
Yep. It's a good one to use when you're teaching. But when did you start to use it? Was there like a particular event that started you using it, or did someone teach it to you, or is it just something that came about?
It was just something that probably evolved with each one of the horses that I've ridden and competed has taught me something. Mm-hmm. And one in particular, I just kept keeping in a competition scenario, kept keeping his dressage warm up the same, and then he just wasn't coping once he got into the arena, and got to the point where I thought, well, I need to change this up. This isn't working. Mm-hmm. I tried a few different things and then come up with the formula for him, and which takes me to another thing where I think if you do what works for you and your horse, regardless of what everyone else is doing, whether that be you have to ride them twice, whether it be they only get a 5-minute warm up, whether you go straight from the stable to the arena. You do what works for you.
Because I think sometimes people go out and they go to their first few competitions or maybe go to like a higher level competition than what they used to. You know, they might be competing at one level, all of a sudden they're up to another level and they're watching everyone else. What are they doing? What are they doing different? You know, how I should be able to do some of that. There's lots of things that they'd be doing that's different to the training that the horse has been used to the whole time.
Yes, that's right. And I know the first few times I went to, say, a big 3-day event like Melbourne, and you do get a bit overwhelmed by not only the atmosphere but all the competitors there, and you're like, they're walking their horse out, or they're riding their horse twice a day, 3 times a day, and you do get a bit, maybe I should be doing something different. Yes. Where it took me a while to go, no, you've got to stick with what you know, what works for you.
Yep. Karen, what about starting with horses? You know, do you remember what got you started? Why did you decide to have a career with horses? What got you going to ride and compete to 4-star? What were your early influences there?
Growing up, I didn't have horses, but my aunt and cousins rode competitively pony club and predominantly show jumping. Mm-hmm. But I spent every holidays I could with them. I'd help them feed up, muck out, and would just beg, borrow and steal a horse to ride whenever I could.
Yep.
And I think it was when I was about 10 or 11, I was finally allowed to go to Pony Club camp on one of their very experienced horses, or ponies he was. His name was Flash, and he was called that for a reason. He knew how to do everything, and I didn't know how to do much, and I just hung on. And I still remember my first show jump round, and he heard the bell and he just took off like a flash, and I just had to point him at the jumps and stay on. And we actually came second. And, yeah, I was just like hooked from then.
Good.
And from there, my auntie gave me another pony that she had who didn't know much at all. He'd been broken in and turned out. He was quiet but a bit spooky, so I had to have my wits about me. But I ended up doing Pony Club. I did my first one-day event on him when I was about 13, I think. And I think we stopped at every single cross-country fence, but at least once. But we got round because in those days you could keep going unless you stopped at the same fence 3 times.
Yep.
And
it was a cricket score, wasn't it? You know, the whole score was so high that the cricket score. Yep.
But I finished. So I rode him till I was about 17, and so that was the start of my riding career and my interest in eventing and love of eventing.
If people want to go on, you know, if you just think, right, well, I mean, you've got your own kids, but if you had a niece or a nephew who was coming to your place every holidays, some are going to make it and some aren't. What sort of core skills, character traits would you be looking at for someone that you think that person's going to make it? You know, they'll have a career with horses, they'll go out, they'll do well. What do you think that someone needs to do well? Do well eventing or, you know, do well with horses?
As you know, it's a pretty tough gig. It's long hours and it's hard work, but they have to have that passion. Like you nearly have to live and breathe horses to, and have a strong work ethic to then go on and make that your career.
Okay.
And there's going to be some tough times, but the good times more than make up for that. And it's really important to network and surround yourself with people who believe in you and are positive about what you want to do with your career with horses.
Yep.
I know growing up and when I started riding, I heard a lot. You can't make a career out of horses. You can't do it.
Oh, yeah.
You've got to have
tell me about it. Yep.
Another job. And I wouldn't discourage a young person from going and getting other qualifications. But if that's what they want to do, there's plenty of avenues in the equestrian world to, have that education, but also still be working with horses.
Yeah, those opportunities within the horse industry are growing at an exponential rate. It just really is. It's not just, I remember when I was at school and wanted to work with horses and, you know, the guidance officer tried to talk me out of it. You know, all you're doing is just picking up your manure. You'll never, ever have a career. You'll never pass that part. And, yeah, the opportunities that I've had through horses, you know, the travel, the opportunities, it's just been brilliant. Yeah.
That's right. And not only that, the people that you meet and the friendships that you make, that's all part of it as well.
Who do you think, if, you know, you're going to think about people who have influenced you and supported you positively, is there anyone you'd like to mention?
Craig and Prue Barrett have probably been the biggest influence on my equestrian career, both in riding and coaching. I first met Craig when I started having lessons with him when he and Prue were based at New South Wales Equestrian Centre with Heath and Rosie.
Yep.
And that, I hate to think of how long ago that was, but I think it was probably close to 30 years ago.
Yep.
And I went there on my little quarter horse, stock horse, pony club mount, and Craig took me from a pony club eventer to I went 3-star on that horse.
Yeah. Yep.
And not only that, they supported me and being just that positive influence in other horses that I've brought on, and also in helping me develop my coaching career as well.
Yep. It's interesting, isn't it? I know that just even within our podcast, he's probably influenced more riders, riders, competitors, coaches than anyone else. But now it's almost like it's the next generation, people that he's influenced have gone on and influenced other people. But then you're coaching and teaching and doing everything. So you're then influencing other people as well.
Yeah. Yes. And Prue and Craig did spend a bit of time over in the UK.
Yep.
When I first started going there for lessons. And I was lucky enough and fortunate enough that Heath took over my lessons.
Okay.
So I was taught by Heath as well. And yes, it was just amazing.
Yep.
Just amazing.
Yep.
You come out of a lesson just on such a high.
Yes.
And,
yes.
And you could, and you listen to Craig teach, and it's very much listening to listening to Heath teach. So
I can say that. I had lessons with Heath, and then I had lessons with one of Heath's instructors. So, and I can say that they do have a very similar style. And, I suppose for a little while there, I was doing, coach training with him. There's certain tips that you pick up and you hear yourself repeating it, and it's Heath's voice. But, because he's so effective and because he's so good, that's why we go ahead and do it. Yeah. What about a horse? If you got, you talked about the one that you took to his place and it went to 3-star. Is that the main horse, or you got another horse that you'd like to talk about?
He was obviously my first serious event horse.
Mm-hmm.
So he has a special place in my heart. But my next horse, Lexon, was the horse that took me to 4-star. He was an off-the-track thoroughbred, which I bought on Craig's recommendation as a 6-year-old. And he felt like he could jump the moon. And he was so brave, and sometimes you did feel like you needed a parachute when he jumped. We did our first 3-star at Melbourne 2 years after I bought him.
Yep.
And our performance there was good enough to, I think that was 2 years out from Sydney Olympics, so it was very much a long list. But, you got onto the selectors' radar.
Yep.
Just from that first 3-star start.
That's good, isn't it?
So but just with that thoroughbred brain, he didn't quite cope with the pressures of the 60 by 20 arena. So dressage was his downfall, especially when we competed at Adelaide in the early years when it actually used to still be a racetrack. And the dressage arena was actually on the home stretch.
Yes.
So he'd warm up beautifully and then get out there and
let me go.
But he would then go out and gallop steeplechase and galloped around that 4-star track like it was nothing. So, and he competed in the long format 3-day events.
Yes.
At Melbourne, Lochinvar, Goondiwindi, Sydney and Adelaide.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately I had to retire him due to injury.
Mm-hmm.
But on a nice note, he won his last start at Camden Equestrian. So that was a good note to finish on.
Was that the best, thinking about your proudest performance or proudest moment with the horses? Was that it, winning his last event? Or being on that selectors' radar for Sydney?
Yeah, that's up there. Probably the one that sticks though is on my little quarter horse stock horse. I actually won Stone. It was called Advanced back in those days. 3-star.
That's all right.
At my second attempt at 3-star.
Yep.
And I had the show jump clear to stay in the lead, and I was ahead of Johnny Cooper and Shane Rose.
Yep.
So, so the pressure was on, and he did it, and that I'm still brings a smile to my face every time I think about that.
Wow,
that moment.
Good. That's good. Thinking about where you are now and any challenges, is a challenge because you're not going to go and compete 4-star again. You're happy
No.
going out with the family. You're happy now coaching riders who have got their own set goals. You know what?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I guess my biggest challenge is finding the right tools and the right teaching methods to help people achieve their goals, because one of the most what's the word?
Challenging, is it?
Just one of the things I've learnt from coaching is the different learning styles of people.
Yes, of different people. Yep.
Yeah, and there's so many different ways you can say the same thing.
Yes.
And then one day you'll say it a different way and you see it and you go, oh, they got it.
Yep. You know what's funny? It's when you teach coaches, people who are coaches, are instructors, and you teach their children, and the kids are just so rapt about the lesson, and the parent goes, I've been telling them that for ages and they just haven't got it.
Yes, that's the story of my life.
Yep. Yes. Well, it would be with you as well.
My children now go to Prue and Craig for lessons.
Yep.
And, obviously similar teaching styles.
Good.
But,
Yep.
Yes, and I'll come home and go, oh, that was so good. And I'm like, that's exactly what I've been telling you.
Yes.
So,
yes. Now, thinking about you as a coach, a problem, and I am going to ask you for 3 problems. I'm going to be really greedy because you're an eventer and you do, dressage, show jumping and cross country. A common fault that you see with riders, trainers, handlers, doesn't matter, talk about how to fix it. So if we just talk about dressage, you're out there, you're competing, you see lots of other riders, what's a common fault that you think the dressage competitors do where if they fix the problem, it could improve their test, improve their scores, improve the horse, even within just the training?
Keeping a rhythm in each gate.
Yep.
And accuracy.
Okay, yes. Yes.
Practice your accuracy at home.
Yep.
Like practice your 20-metre circles so that they're accurate. Practice your centre line so that they're straight. Quite often I'll be running through a test with a pupil and we go, okay, let's start the test. And they come up the centre line and it's all over the place.
Yep.
And I'll ask them, so how many centre lines have you practiced the last week? None. Okay. And I make a point of, well, in the lead up to a competition, you probably need to do, I do like 10 centre lines nearly every day that I do flat work in the lead up to a competition so that you know that it's going to be accurate, because that centre line, that first centre line is your first impression to the judge.
Yes. Yep. Now, there's keeping a rhythm within the pace. Is that you're going to use that for cross country and show jumping? That's sort of fairly obvious. But have you got anything else that's specific show jumping or specific cross country?
See a lot of younger riders and probably amateur riders don't have a very good concept of how fast they're going.
Okay, yep.
Cross country.
Yes.
They're either going too fast, and they can either be going too fast because they're just scared, or they're going too fast because they haven't got control of their horse, or they're going too fast because they actually don't realise they're going that fast.
Yep.
So when I'm teaching cross country, I really try and I will measure out. Say the group, an 80-centimetre group, I'll measure out I think it's 400 metres a minute, 450 metres a minute. I'll measure out 450 metres and we'll jump some jumps and then we'll actually put that together and I'll time them so that they can get a bit of an indication of how fast they're going. And, just try and get them to realise that making the time is about realising where you can go a bit quicker.
Yep.
And realising where you actually need to set your horse up, balance them, and not be going so quick, because that's when it gets dangerous.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. And what about show jumping? Something, keeping the rhythm, but within the course, but anything in particular for show jumping that's going to help our listeners?
Need to ride through your turns.
Okay.
Yeah, just keep that activity going through your turns, as well as, keeping that rhythm.
Okay.
And walk your course where you're going to ride it.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
If you're an equestrian coach or a horse riding instructor, or even if you aspire to be one, have a look at the free video series for horse riding instructors on the Horse Chats website. Go there now, have a look, horsechats.com. All right, I think those tips are good for our listeners. I think that, if we think about a podcast, it's got to have the learning in it, and if people are listening to this one, just something that they can go away and go, right, that's what I have to do. And even someone who's only riding dressage or only riding show jumping, the importance of keeping the rhythm through all their paces.
Yeah.
I think that's just a big learning thing for them as well. Yep.
And it's a real feel too. So.
Sure. And the more that you do it, the better you're going to get. Of course, you need to get some feedback on that, which is why you'd be going to your coach or your instructor. But even just, two people riding together can give feedback on some of the things that we talk about. Yeah.
Some eyes on the ground or someone to video.
Yes, video is very good because you can keep it. Yep.
For a bit, just so that you can, self-analyse and see what you actually look like.
Yep. All right. Now, Karen, what are you looking forward to now? You're out, you're competing, you've got your students that you're coaching, you've got your kids that you're riding, you've got your family group that you're competing. Anything else? Have you got any young horses coming on, or any that you're breeding, or, anything that you're particularly looking forward to?
Looking forward to my kids continuing and hopefully get the buzz out of the competition that I did when I was younger.
Yep.
I still enjoy competing, but it's not the be all and end all.
Yeah.
For me now, I actually get just as much enjoyment out of watching them compete and helping them at an event.
Yep.
Yeah, they've all got relatively new horses within the last 12 to 18 months. So, just looking forward to them developing partnerships with those horses, and hopefully special ones like I was lucky enough to have with my horses.
Yeah.
And I'm also looking at finishing my level 2 coaching qualifications. I'm 2/3 of the way there. So that's one thing I do want to get ticked off my list in 2019.
That ongoing professional development is so important, just to keep going. And as you say, the horse industry, it's opening up. So it could be, improving your coaching, becoming better as you're coaching, even using those complementary skills. And, I think that's really good. Now, before we go, can you just summarise your philosophy with coaching with horses, just to give people a tip to take away with them, just something so they can remember, and, what do you think is the most important thing for them to remember, just in a couple of sentences?
With a lot of the people I teach at the moment, it's really important to be mindful of what you're feeding your horse in relation to what workload he is getting. Which is really important, because quite often my students will come to me and say that their horse is being really naughty, and I'll say, well, how much work has he had this week and what feeds he had? So just trying to teach people a bit of horse management that way.
Yep.
And in terms of riding, just keep at it and believe in yourself. Get if you've got a question, don't be scared to ask. Don't be scared to make a mistake. If you make a mistake, forgive yourself. Your horse is going to forgive you. They're very forgiving animals.
Yep.
That's why we love them so much.
Yes. Yes.
And, just keep working hard at it.
Okay. All right. Now, Karen, if people would like to contact you, what's the best way? Those details will be on horsechats.com/Karen Irwin, but how can they contact you?
On my mobile or Facebook, or I have an Instagram account as well. So any of those, I'm very contactable and will respond to either of those.
All right. So what do? They're just going to go and search for Karen Irwin and those details will come there. They'll be on Horse Chats anyway, and we'll have make sure we've got all those details, make sure they're the correct ones. Yep.
Yes, that's the best way.
All right. Good to talk to you, Karen, and love to catch up with you again sometime soon.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Now, if you're still there, you probably know that I'm absolutely passionate about education within the horse industry. That's why I host this podcast. My other venture is Online Horse College. Have a look now at onlinehorsecollege.com and I'll see you over there.
Remember that our comments and instructions are general in nature and do not take into consideration your individual horses or your individual ability and circumstances. If you enjoyed this podcast, then please leave your comment below.